Stanley's mule must have been having himself a good old stroll that fateful day in Wilton, Arkansas in 1948, when he chanced to pass the Harris place. He was content to maintain a steady pace, flopping along with no care, no consideration of anything around him. Then, like a clap of thunder, he was startled as the scent of corn suddenly wafted across his nose. His nostrils flared to suck in the more of the scent, and Stanley's mule stopped dead in his tracks. Wilton, Arkansas, was a thriving, bustling little burg which consisted of 2 dry goods stores, 3 gas stations, and several homes scattered about on either side of the Ashdown Highway. Everyone in Wilton knew everyone else, and everyone knew Stanley Hendricks' mule. And that's what they called him, Stanley's Mule. It just so happened that Stanley's mule, we'll call him Mule, had a special talent. He could open just about any door or gate, just using his teeth. I must confess at this point in the story, I was only 5 years old. The only part of the story that I witnessed myself was the ending. The rest is a compilation of events as told to me by the other witness, my mom, and the victim herself, Florine Harris. Nevertheless, please know that this story is based in fact, mostly. So their mule stood in the middle of the road. Ah, corn, he thought. Dry corn, chops, chicken feed. If Purina had made a mule child, this would be it. Mule turned his eager snout toward the rear of Florine Harris's house. There was corn back there, and it was going to be his. Like a lady leaping across a puddle, Mule stepped delicately across the small ditch at the edge of the road and meandered with growing purpose in the general direction of the corn's scent. Around the house he ambled with no fences and no Florine Harris to discourage his progress. Behind the house, Mule saw a outbuilding. He smelled the corn. His pace quickened as he nearly galloped to the small door that stood between a hungry mule and a bounty of luscious corn. Mule quickly sized up the locking mechanism that secured the door standing between him and lunch. It was not a real lock, it was one of those old-timey latch strings. There was just a string hanging out of the hole. A tug on the string would lift a small bar from its cradle and allow the door to open. Mule bit gently on the string, gave it a small, delicate tug, shoo, the door came open, and inside was the storehouse of golden, illicit booty. Mule went right to the business of burglary, already having passed by breaking and entering. Well, here's the scene. Mule is munching away at the corn that Florine Harris had every right to expect would last through a season of chicken feeding. Florine was in her kitchen when she heard something unusual in the back of the house. One peek through her kitchen window and Florine knew everything. Mule was leaning into the outbuilding all the way up to his shoulders and was quickly laying waste to Florine's storehouse of corn. Florine was incensed. She had to take immediate and swift action. She crept quietly to the back door and she grabbed a mop leaning there as she exited. She needn't have worried about stealth. Mule's attention was completely focused on the corn. Florine approached the mule from behind. With gritted teeth, she rammed the mule repeatedly with the rounded end of the long red mop handle. He was so intent on sucking up as much corn as possible that he barely acknowledged her presence with a swish of his tail. While what happened next really did happen. How it happened is not readily apparent. Maybe Florine was sweating and her vision was impaired. Maybe she was so distraught from the heady mix of anger and fear that she was unaware of her own actions. Whatever the reason, Florine reared back, cocked her arms, tightened her grip, and with one swift forward thrust, she delivered one more mighty poke. Florine almost fell forward as the mop handle landed squarely on that puckered area, just below the tail of the mule, which the mule had the happy luck of having flipped skyward. The puckered area was large and the mop handle was small. So when it landed, it didn't stop at the outrage. Florine's follow-through put about 6 to 8 inches of mop handle back into the mule. Now, up to now, Mule had no reason to end his free meal of golden corn kernels. Now he did. Mule had an instantaneous and involuntary urge to rid himself of the uninvited alien road. Now it rested in his rear. Things started happening all at once. His eyes popped wide open. The rectum slammed shut. Unfortunately for Mule, his next action was ill-conceived. He reacted by taking flight, an attempt to leave behind the object of his irritation. He discovered with some discomfort that each time his rear hoofs hit the ground, the embedded object made its presence known by introducing a sharp pain at the point of contact. Mule was thus painfully encumbered as he reached the road out front and began his hasty retreat away from the Harris boat. He wanted to run, but was unable to accelerate due to the speed retardant nature of it. Wavering up and down from his rear. My mother told others later that she was on our front porch sweeping an evening's worth of kid dirt when she heard the commotion up the road. Her memory was better than mine, as all I remember seeing was a two-tailed mule. The lady who was screaming out words I'd never heard before. Mama looked up the road and immediately recognized Mule as he approached, stutter-stepping down the road by her house. She said Mule was not quite running, but then he wasn't quite walking. Normally either. He was acting a little strange, she noted, and she was about to go back in the house to see to the safety of her other kids when she saw Florine Harris in hot pursuit of the mule. Overcome by curiosity, Mama decided to stay around and see what developed from this increasingly interesting picture before her, and where Mama was, so was I. Mule was not known for vocalization, and Mama was surprised to hear the animal almost moved to human speech as he passed her house. She said Mule was uttering some mournful guttural sound that sounded like old Grandpa Athey trying to clear his throat in the morning. As the Mule passed the house, Mama noticed what appeared to be a perfectly good mop sticking out his back end. At this point, her attention was drawn to Florine, who was now gaining on the mule and had no intention of stopping to chat with Mom. Without even slowing down, Florine turned to Mom and offered what she must have thought was a full and appropriate explanation for this race with Stanley's mule. As she passed by our house in a dead run, arms flailing, legs reaching out in long, leaping strides, her voice trailed off like a train passing the depot, she yelled, "Well, it was a brand new